They got to come to me. The UFC, NYC, and MSG, let me tell you, it's a match made in heaven. Saturday night was the first UFC fight ever in New York. This crowd was electric. Conor McGregor takes down Eddie Alvarez in the second round. This man has it all. The cocky personality, smart mouth, and most importantly, he's got the skills to back it up. 9-1 in the UFC. But Stephen A., the question is, does the UFC need McGregor, or does McGregor need the UFC more?
It is rare that I would say this because my rule of thinking in business is that no one individual, no name is bigger than the brand. Always understand that no matter who you think you are, no matter how successful you are, it's the brand that ensures your success. The UFC's existence elevates McGregor. It's not the other way around. Having said that, knowing the aspirations of the UFC and how it wants to ingratiate itself in the American sports fabric, the way that it has so successfully under the stewardship of Dana White, in order for it to continue to elevate to that level, I think that he's right to some degree. Is McGregor right about the ownership? You need to get tested. Let's not get beside ourselves now. You don't deserve an ownership stake in the UFC. Those who deserve an ownership stake are those who actually take their dollars and share the risk and put their money into the mix. You don't deserve ownership just because you're a star representing the brand and you go out there and you generate money for the sport, which is actually what you're supposed to be doing anyway. Having said that, he does deserve mega pay. He is box office. Max Kellerman, I was there Saturday night. I was there. You understand? And I'm telling you right now, I was ringside. I was sitting with a crew of people who will remain nameless, but trust me, they're the who's who. You know, in this world, as far as I'm concerned, it was special. And I'm telling you right now, when he rolled up in there with 50s, I get money. I mean, it was, I run New York. I mean, you got, Matt.
To come in and say, I run New York, and you're from Ireland.
Listen, as you have, I have been there when Mike Tyson has entered the ring. I have been there when Floyd Money Mayweather has entered the ring. I'm a John Bones Jones fan. I was there when he fought. No, I wasn't there. I didn't show up when he fought. But I just watched that on television. I have not seen too much like McGregor rolling into an arena the way that he did at Madison Square Garden on Saturday night. It was absolutely special and phenomenal. So I'm only saying that to say this last point. I'll defer to your judgment because I know from a pugilistic point, you really know this stuff. But this dude is box office. He deserves mega dollars, but not ownership.
And I'm a huge Conor McGregor fan, and I'm usually pro-labor in these instances. Conor McGregor not only talks the talk, he walks the walk. And by walks the walk, I mean he takes risks, even in terms of who he fights, right? And then immediate rematches and a loss to a bigger, stronger guy, and then figures out a way to win, and then wins his
Saturday night. He destroyed Eddie Alvarez.
And then he was so dominant against Alvarez with his striking. And look, so does he deserve a lot of money? Yes. However, the interesting thing about the UFC is Dana White and Zuffa and the UFC, and obviously it's now sold, but they created the marketplace for MMA, at least in this country. It didn't used to exist, and then they created it. And in terms of stars, there used to be Gracie and Shamrock, and then Tito Ortiz and Liddell and Couture and Matt Hughes and ESPN.
It didn't sell like this.
But it kept getting bigger and bigger.
And Anderson Silva.
John Bones Jones. Of course, Brock Lesnar, and then Ronda Rousey very recently. And now we have Conor McGregor. The point is, the UFC is, there will always be more stars. I'm not saying Conor McGregor isn't unique. He is. He's enormous. Their biggest star ever. But the UFC is less dependent on stars than, say, boxing. Because boxing is a bunch of independent contractors who hope that someone can come along and capture the public's imagination. The UFC is more like the NFL or MLB or the NBA. When someone says, hey, you know what they should do in boxing? There's no they. There's no one organization perceived as more legitimate than all the others in boxing that can plot out the future. There is a they in MMA. It's called the UFC. It's like Band-Aid means bandage. It's a name brand that's so powerful it actually means the product itself. You don't say MMA, you say UFC. Dana White did that. And so he, having created the marketplace in order for Conor McGregor to be in the position that he makes the money that he does, and the fact that they are less dependent on those kind of personalities than boxing, they've had so many and it just continues to grow, makes me say, while I hope Conor McGregor gets all the money in the world, asking for an ownership stake is probably far-fetched.
I will say this, though. He does make a point by saying, I want my share. It doesn't have to be ownership. But what it does have to be is the UFC recognizing this dude is one of a kind. Dana White is on the record. I've never seen anything like him. WME IMG paid $4.2 million. $4.2 billion to own this product. So the point is that if they want a return on their investment, you got to take care of this dude because he's the kind of dude that will walk away. You know who he is to me, Max? He's a combination of Mike Tyson and Floyd Money Mayweather.
Here's another thing, though.
Yeah.
That's what he's a combination of.
About the
Not
UFC.
on that level as of yet because it's UFC instead of boxing, but he's a combo.
Keep in mind about the UFC, there are no soft touches. They're all world-class fighters. And it's a sport where, you know, like if you're watching a fight, not everyone has one-punch power in boxing. But because of submission holds, etc., everyone's a de facto one-punch knockout artist in the UFC. And since you're always fighting a good fighter, I don't care who you are, you're going to lose. Conor McGregor already did recently barely avenge the defeat. And if you saw Nurmagomedov on the undercard, I don't know that Conor McGregor beats Nurmagomedov. I might make Nurmagomedov the favorite. That dude is dominant. The interesting thing about that fight, by the way, is that Nurmagomedov was hurt by a strike early in the fight. And what Conor McGregor can do, he's a well-rounded mixed martial artist who can strike with his hands. But I wonder who would be the favorite in that fight.
Let me say this to you.
And they're in the same division.
Let me say this to you. I'm sitting ringside. And I saw Conor McGregor connect on 3 punches in the first round. All 3 punches dropped Alvarez.
Yep, he can punch.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Alvarez...
He couldn't take him down. If he took him down, it could have been a little dangerous.
That's right, but he couldn't. But here's the thing, the thing that I found so interesting. Eddie Alvarez walked into the ring. Shorter, yes, but looking bigger. By the time the second round arrived, he looked smaller.
Yep.
I mean, he looked bigger before the fight started, and then looked smaller once he got hit.
And
it's like his body shrunk for crying out.
The same thing could happen to Nurmagomedov. Conor McGregor is a really talented guy. I'm just saying, I suspect that Nurmagomedov is the favorite in that fight.
Fine.
They're in the same division, and that's a fight that's got to happen before too long.
Let me say this to you. This is the determination that I have reached about Conor McGregor, because I've seen him get hit, and I've seen him be able to take a punch. You have to be Nate Diaz type in terms of your ability to take a punch to beat Conor McGregor.
Or you got to get him on the ground fast.
What I'm saying is, if Conor McGregor hits you and you can't take a punch, I don't give a damn what else you could do. It's over.
You know what he has as a striker, by the way, from a
It's
boxing point of view, what McGregor has as a striker, because in the MMA, in the UFC, you got to be a jack of all trades, a master of one. Maybe you could master one and just be competent in other areas. As a striker with his hands, he not only has power, but he's really accurate with his power punches. So he's dangerous for anybody. There's no question about it.
And guys are scared of him. Yeah. Guys are scared of him. I mean, the minute Eddie got hit by him, you could see Eddie was scared.
Oh, he had hands behind the back. I'm
saying for all of that.
That's a Roy Jones move.
The second he got, we saw what eventually happened to Roy. The point is, when he got hit, he was scared. After that, this is the kind of stuff that Conor McGregor is doing to people. He is scaring you to death. You're scared.
What eventually happened to Roy is he got old. When he was in his prime,
I got to cover the UFC for 6 years, be at all the fights, but being in New York, something special. I missed it for sure. 206 and 205 206, 207 are going to be good cards too, coming up Toronto and Vegas. But coming up next, should Zeke Elliott be the MVP favorite? You all voted at home and will not want to miss these guys' reaction to the results. Don't miss your chance to enter the First Take Your Take viewer contest. You can win a chance to debate Stephen A. and Max right here on national television. All you have to do is go to firsttakeyourtake.com, upload a 1-minute video with your best original sports debate. Keep it clean. 2 winners will be selected by our show staff. So get busy. We could see you at the debate desk taking on the fellas. Here's a few of the latest.
Now, I'd like to address the topic that you all discussed earlier pertaining to Mr. Dak Prescott. Tell me why he can't win MVP. The run game and the passing game are both inseparable. Ezekiel Elliott doesn't get lit if Dak Prescott is not already on fire.
League's MVP as of right now, I have Matt Ryan over Derek Carr and Tom Brady. I think it's pretty impressive to beat the defending Super Bowl champ and the NFC champs in back-to-back weeks. They lost on the technicality in Seattle, but then they came home and beat your Green Bay Packers.
The Ravens, the just win baby mentality. They are a force to be reckoned with. The black hole is back. Derek Carr is my MVP this season.
All right.
I love the young lady sassiness.
She was great.
She was energetic. The other dude looked swole, like he on steroids, like he was on steroids or something. I don't know about that, but he was good. He was good. They were all good.
You know it when you see it. When someone's feeling it, she was feeling it. You can see it.
Had the it factor?
I liked her.
All right.
She had the it factor. She did.
You know who else has the it factor? Ezekiel Elliott. I think it's safe to say the Cowboys are feeling pretty good about their 4th overall pick. Over 1,000 rushing yards through 9 games, 3 TDs, including the game winner in Pittsburgh Sunday, 8 straight wins. Ezekiel Elliott is taking the league by storm, and he's just a rookie. We asked you earlier in the show, should Zeke be the MVP favorite? The results are in. 59% say yes. Ryan, how we doing? Good to see you.
Good. How are you guys?
We are fantastic.
I know my man over here. I know you're not feeling good today. I want to apologize on behalf of the organization. We, as the Pittsburgh Steelers, understand the love you have for us and the hatred you have for the Dallas Cowboys. So I know it was tough for you to get up this morning.
It's going to be hard
but I really like your outfit.
It's going to be hard. I appreciate that. It's going to be hard for me. I don't even want to talk to the Steelers right now.
All right. Let's talk about another subject that you love, how well the Cowboys are doing. Should Zeke be the favorite to win NFL MVP?
In the interest of fairness, I must confess, yes. As of right now. When you consider the season that the Cowboys are having, combined with the way that he's been running the football since week 2, he's averaging 5.1 yards per carry overall. He's on course to eclipse the rookie rushing record of 1,800-plus yards. This massive offensive line, I mean, I'm so disgusted because I've got mixed emotions because obviously he's a Cowboy, but I got love for him, and I'm proud of the job that he's doing. I look at that offensive line and the holes they're creating for him. I'm looking at 3 touchdown runs that he had yesterday. Steelers didn't even touch him. I mean, he wasn't even touched. He wasn't even touched. A matter of fact, 82 of his 114 yards rushing was before contact. I mean, that's just embarrassing. Oh, my God. I digress. I'm sorry. I'm just so disgusted with the Steelers right now. Having said that, Ezekiel Elliott has been doing damage against a lot of people. Dak Prescott deserves a lot of credit. I get all of that. But you got to wonder, even though I believe Dak Prescott would still be good, you got to wonder how good he would be if you didn't have the running game that he has at his disposal. Of course, I'm thinking Tom Brady, ultimately, the Russell Wilsons of the world deserve consideration. But right now, the way the Dallas Cowboys are rolling, the only people that you can give credit to more than Ezekiel Elliott is the offensive line.
That's the point, though. Who was better, Emmitt Smith or Barry Sanders?
Barry Sanders.
No one thinks Emmitt Smith. I mean, sorry. And at the time, no one thought Emmitt Smith. But he was running behind an all-time great offensive line. Ezekiel Elliott, let me just say for the record, Cowboys fans, because I thought he was I thought he would be a good pro. And early on in the season, I said, I don't know. He doesn't look that fast, but he didn't look fast east-west. Boy, he got some north-south speed, like in a straight line. Forget it. And he's patient and smart and has a next gear when he needs it that results in these huge gains. But to your point, Stephen A., on his touchdowns this season, he's gone 101 yards. Yards before contact, 81. 3.9 yards per rush before first contact yesterday. What that mean? No, sorry, they didn't touch him yesterday. He was not contacted on those situations yesterday. So how is he an excellent player? Yes, he is. But he's not better than Todd Gurley. I mean, Todd Gurley is facing stacked boxes. He has no quarterback. He does not have the same offensive line, etc. But he looks better than Todd Gurley right now.
Well, here's the thing, though. That's not how MVP is won, though, right? It's not necessarily like, is he the best running back? MVP is based on what you do during that year, and a lot of times how well your team plays because of what you've done. Which is why Derek Carr right now, for me, is the lead candidate for the MVP. The way that he's brought that team back at the end of games, the clutch throws, whether it be New Orleans, whether it be Tampa Bay, overtime, he's the guy driving that train right now, directing and conducting that train to have them 7-2 atop the AFC West, which is the toughest conference in the NFL. But to Ezekiel Elliott, if there was MVP voting on the team, he'd be third. First would be guys by the name of Free, Martin, Frederick, Leary, Smith. They're the MVPs of that team. And they can win it, actually, because players can stand for players. There's no rule. The P can stand for players, not player, right? Dak Prescott is a leading candidate for the MVP over Ezekiel Elliott. As the league goes, he's number 2 for me. Because think about last year without Tony Romo. Castle, Whedon, Moore, they were awful. That's the reason we said they had to get a quarterback. But you look at this team now, the drive to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, that's not Ezekiel Elliott, right? That wasn't Ezekiel Elliott making plays. That was Dak Prescott having the presence, having the poise to bring them back. So when you look at this team in general,
he's number 3 on the team. One thing real quick, I know Matt Ryan wasn't great in the second half last year, but over the course of this entire season, if you're actually talking about value for a player, I would say it's still Matt Ryan. He was making throws in the first half of that game that only a handful of quarterbacks, period, can make. I know he's throwing it to Julio Jones early on, but still, when you look at what Matt Ryan's done this year, one mediocre second half and a loss, to me, does not throw away the work he's done. I would still say he should be the MVP.
Let me disagree with you. First of all, Emmitt Smith not only won a league MVP, he won a Super Bowl MVP. We knew he was about that behind that offensive line. It didn't stop him from getting those rewards. That's number 1. Number 2, so we know we're not going to give it to the offensive line. I mean, we say they deserve it, and we know they do, but they ain't getting the damn award, okay? So let's be realistic. We ain't got to. Have you ever? Has there been?
Did I not say the team MVP?
Has there been an offensive line that got a league MVP?
No.
Then stop it. Then stop it, because you know it's not going to happen. So don't bring unrealistic stuff into the equation.
Why can't I? You bring unrealistic stuff all the time.
Not at all. Not at all.
Words.
Stats. Him. That's him. Him and
no, I
got nothing on him.
Pristine
you just wrong right there.
And unique
You're wrong right there. Listen, okay, whatever.
Stats, that's fair.
Whatever.
Let's
the
do
point
that
that I'm trying to make to you, well, not only do I bring the words and all the stats, but I'm also showing up to games, so I'm reporting. But that's neither here nor there.
And the charisma, by the way.
Absolutely.
I mentioned my charisma.
Always the charisma. That would be mine, not yours.
The
point is this. Hold on.
The
The other thing is this. Dak Prescott. I'm not trying to take anything away from that young brother. Not at all. But because he's a 4th-round pick and because he's a rookie, I'm wondering how much does the offensive line beating folks up, along with Ezekiel Elliott, who we all recognize has, talk about Mars attacks. That big head of his, it's news if that dude gets a concussion. It's news if that dude gets a concussion. I know he can give them, but I don't know if I've ever seen, the last running back I ever saw with a head that size was O.J. Simpson. That's the last time. Sorry to bring him up because obviously the two don't compare. But the point that I'm trying to make to you, the size of that head of his.
A big noggin.
What a massive, massive head. And so, listen, if he gets a concussion.
So he gets to win the MVP because his head's big?
He's running the football well. He's imposing, he's inflicting punishment. Okay, all of those things play a role. He's producing numbers-wise, producing wins-wise, and he's distributing
the weight
punishment.
Of that head, he's so fast.
And distributing punishment.
He's leaning forward.
No, that's a good point.
He's leaning forward and hurting people.
So DeMarco Murray.
I think you would duck from him. I really do. I really do.
Whatever.
That head.
DeMarco Murray, right, wins the rushing title 2 years ago.
Right.
Darren McFadden, who can play, but who's a candle, right? One blow and he's out. He rushes for over 1,000 yards behind this same line.
I agree with you.
Right? So can you imagine the pressure, not only being the Dallas Cowboy starting quarterback, right? But being on a team where Tony Romo sits and watches every game.
I don't think
knowing that when he comes back,
totally agree. Dak to me is ahead of Ezekiel Elliott on that team. I agree with your order. Offensive line 1, Dak 2.
I don't believe
Zeke
about that much pressure about Zach though, because I think he was playing with house money.
I want to say one thing about DeMarco Murray.
Sure.
DeMarco Murray is a B+ running back at least. But behind that Dallas Cowboys line, he looked like an A+. Zeke is an A running back running behind an A++ line.
Yeah,
so
great.
He looks
it's great
all
for Dallas.
world.
It's great for those Cowboys.
They'll still lose. They'll still lose.
All right.
They're going to Super Bowl.